Hello, my name is Vishal Rein. In this video tutorial, I would like to talk all about the curves inside Maya. So to start with, I will go with the NURBS primitives. In NURBS primitives, we have two types of curves here. One is the circle and another one is the square. So circle is the first topic. So let's start with the circle. So for that I'll open the options here and we have few options. In every window in Maya we have the reset option, which will generally allow me to reset the values to the default of Maya. So with the default settings I would like to create a circle. Okay, why do we create curves and in different shapes? We create curves to model with them. We can use certain tools like in this case I'll be using an extrude tool, and then you see you got a model which is made out of a curve. So we use curve for modeling them. We use curve as a user interface element for rigging. Generally the controls we call it as, we use them as motion path track for animation. We use in creating particles. So it is a multi-purpose utility, I can say. So the circle right now can be controlled even after we have created it. So I would like to go to this particular section, which is the NURBS circle in the attribute editor, and we have this option called sweep. If you feel the background looks pretty dark or bright, you can change the color of the background by pressing Alt B on the keyboard. So I'm selecting the circle and we have this option called sweep. So when we change the value of the sweep, you see the part of the circle is getting created, and it is actually representing the degrees of the circle. When I say 90 degrees, it is creating 90-degree arc of the circle. When I put the sweep value to 180, it is giving me the semicircle, and I keep increasing the value to 360, it gives me a full circle here. Okay, and we have this option called radius. We can increase or decrease the radius here. As I said, the values here are in centimeters. The next thing is a degree of the curve. We have two types of degrees. One is linear degree, which gives me the straight line between the points. We have something called control vertex. So between the vertex point there is a straight line here. So if you see the straight line is because of the linear, but if you want a smooth circle or smooth arc, I can say, or spline, then you need to change the degree of the curve to cubic. So we have these 2 degrees here. Then we have use tolerance. Use tolerance, if I just get into the options here in the NURBS circle, okay, we have use tolerance option there, and if you see we have none, we have local, we have global. It is the precision of the shape what you are creating. If you see very closely, there is a bit of faceted or hard-edged circle there. So the amount of precision in the circle is achieved by the tolerance value, but default it is none. It means it is creating the precision based upon the number of subdivisions you have used in creating this curve. Let's say if I am using a 4 section in the number of sections the circle is not as smooth as the 8 sections. So the precision of the circle is based upon the number of sections or spans of the curve. That is what happens when we are using the tolerance of none. When we go for the global, there is a global setting for the precision of the circle, and that global setting is working on this. Okay, now global setting can be seen in the preferences window. We can go to the preferences window, and in NURBS section we have surface precision, standard and high. Okay, whereas local, when we choose that tolerance, we get a circle which is pretty round. Cool. Now as I increase this number, then the quality of the circle is not good as this one. Okay, so that is the tolerance for you. And we have we have normal of the circle. Now generally I try to explain you by taking a polygonal disc here. This disc has got a plane, and this plane has got X and Z plane facing in the Y axis. Okay, so if I just rotate this like that, then it is facing in the Z axis. So when we are taking the normal to X, okay, then we have the circle facing towards the X axis. When we take the normal to Y, then this is facing Y axis. Then we have the Z, then it faces to the Z axis. So in which direction you want the circle to be faced, you can control them. We have free, which is it's like user specified axis in which the normal is going to face there. We have the active view. It's not working with this active view. It's facing to the top. I think it's working for the orthographic. Let me see in the front view. Let me see in this side view. So you could see it's created two circles based on the orthographic views. That is the active view for you. We have the pivot point at the object, and we have a user defined pivot point, which is let's say if I put a value of 2 there, and then you get a circle here and the pivot point 2 units away from the center in x-axis, because I've given the pivot point 2 unit here. So lastly we have number of sections. Number of sections is if you just check, I can just take a linear degree curve and then take a circle. Now if you see here, we have the line segments 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there are total 8 sections in this, because I've created. Now what is a section is it is the curve between two edit points. Okay, that space is one section. So if I generally take a cubic one, and then if I go to display NURBS and enable edit points will be displayed on the object, the yellow color cross mark, and you see that part is one section. So if I put a value of 4 and then create, then we get a curve which is having 4 sections there. So 1 2 3 4. In simple words, it is the resolution of the curve. Okay, so yeah, that's the curve for us, and we can modify the curve even after we have created it. First, say I'll take 32 spans there, then create a circle, and then go to the top view, and then select the vertex points one after the other, like that. And then scale them, and you see you got beautiful shape there. So you can modify a circle into different shapes. Let's say I take another example there. I take NURBS circle and then take a linear and then take number of sections to 4, and then I got a rhombus. And then if I let's say if I go to 3 or 2 here in the attributes, it can even give me the triangle. If I put a value of 5, it gives pentagon, 10, and you got more sides to the polygons. So you can create polygons here. So if I put a value of 10 there, and then select every alternate points, then you get a star. Cool, isn't it? So you can modify the primitives and then get a lot of things with that. This is circle for you. Hi, let's see the NURBS square. NURBS square is a NURBS primitive again. So we have few options very similar to NURBS circle. So with the default settings, we create this square. So if you see the NURBS square has got a group in the outliner, and we have top, left, bottom, right. So this square is not made with one curve, it is made with 4 different curves. And if you select any of the curve here, you get the options for this. So we have the side length, which makes the square into a rectangle with not equal sides. So we can control their width and breadth or length or breadth of the square here. Then if you see, we have the line, and if I select the edit points, we have 2 points on the 2 corners, because the number of spans per side is 1. So if I put a value of 4, then we have more number of points, but if you see the edit points, it is 1 span, 2 span, 3 span, and 4 span curve. So we can increase the resolution of the curve if you are expecting more shape in this square. And we have the degree of the curve. We have more types of degrees of the curve here. We have linear, we have quadratic, we have cubic, quintic, and heptic. If you go to the creations of the square here, we have the degree of the curve 1, 2, 3, 5, and 7, which is the same thing here. So 1 is the linear, 2 is the quadratic, 3 is the cubic, 5 is quintic, and 7 is heptic degree of the curve. So the degree of the curve, I'll be discussing about that while I use the CV curve tool, and we have the degree of the curve. So at that time I'll be using this degree while creation. So we'll discuss about the degree of the curve in that matter. and we have normals facing to different axes there. We can control them from here, and we can control from here as well. We have the active view, we have a free view, so it is very similar to our NURBS circle. And also we have the pivot point, which we can make the object stay away from the pivot point there. So this is used in architectural modeling, like we want to make windows, door panels for the models, then it would be quite useful in building such models. Okay, this is the NURBS square for you. Let's see Illustrator object here. For that I'll go to the create menu, and we have ADOBE Illustrator object, and here we have curves, and we have bevel. Curves will create the curves, and then bevel will create the geometry with the beveled extrusion and beveled result. This video is exclusively talking about curves, so I'll talk only about the curves here. So when we create, it will ask me to it will look for a Illustrator file. So I know most of you are comfortable in Photoshop, so I'm using Photoshop here, and then in Photoshop I will be using the pen tool, and then create something with the pen tool here. So while I'm creating this pen tool, okay, make sure this is a very simple path, because we have shape and pixels as well, so make sure this is very clearly a path model. We have custom shapes also here, so we can choose any of the custom shapes from here, and we can create them. So here it looks it's pixels, so I'll take a path and then create that. Okay, or we can go to any of the polygons here. It's a 5-sided polygon, and then so I've just created very simple paths here. So these paths will be directly curves inside Maya. So you have any logos or custom designs which you have made in Photoshop, or any of your client has given you a vector artwork, and then you want to and he asks you to make it in 3D, then you need not go and draw and create them. Directly you can bring that paths into Maya. So what we will do is I'll go to the file, and then I will export, and then we have an option called paths to Illustrator. So I'll just choose that option, and then it is a work path, and then here I'll save as curves from Illustrator, and then save it. Now I'll just come to Maya software, and then we have the browser opened earlier. Go to create, Illustrator object, create, and then choose the file. Now you see you got the curves inside Maya, which has been created in Photoshop. Okay, So these tools can be used to build any models or user interface for your rigging. Okay. Let's see the CV Curve tool. So I'm using this create menu, CV curve tools, and we have CV curve tool. CV means control vertex, and we have another one called EP, means edit point. So these are the components of the NURBS curve in Maya. So let me quickly, with the default settings, create a curve. And then if you see, this is a object, a curve object, which you can move. But if you right click on the curve, you have option to pick its components. So we have a component called control vertex. Short form of this control vertex is CV. Control vertex is a component which is used to edit the shape of the curve. These points doesn't stay on the curve, they stay on hull. Now what is a hull? Hull is a polygonal shape, or a shape made with straight lines, and these points basically define the curvature of the curve. And basically hull is a one piece. When you click and drag, you select the whole curve with the hull. It is much useful in the NURBS models or NURBS geometry, rather in NURBS curve. So control vertex is these points which are on the hull. And we have edit point. Edit point is also a component which is used to edit the shape of the curve, but this point lies on the curve, and this is not a recommended component for editing the curve. As you see, when I'm moving, the other part of the curve is quite affected with that. But as I said, the space between two edit points is considered as a one span or section. First, say if I select this curve, open attribute editor and get into the shape node. In shape node you have 4 span curve, and if I just select the edit points, the space between edit points is span 1, 2 span, 3 span, 4 span. So this is a 4 span curve. With that edit point I can figure it out, or I can just check it from the attribute editor. Then we have a point called curve point. This is a component which is only used to, just click on the curve and you locate it. This component is used by certain tools when we are editing curves. For example, I'm using curves and I'm using this tool called detach. So where that component was located, okay, you can click and locate them, and then when we detach, the curve will be detached from there. This component can be moved over the curve anywhere, but it does not modify the shape of the curve by moving it. The next important thing about the curve point is, wherever the curve point is located, at that point there's a value. Let's say on the curve this point is located at the starting point or maybe at the end point. Then I went further, it is at certain point. This point will have a numeric value, which is basically points location on the curve, and this is parameterization of the curve, and it is in U values. So if I open the script editor, and then if you see, whenever I am locating the curve point, the u value is given here. So it is 0, it is 1.38, it is 2.3, and it is 4. Okay, so this is a curve. You can switch between the component mode to object mode. You can go to the component, you can go to object mode, and opposite to that is component mode. These are all components. So you select a curve, you can always switch between object and component mode here. When you are in component mode, we have which type of component you want to be in. You can generally choose. Okay, what that particular icon represents, for that right click on that, and it tells that this represents CVs of the NURBS, vertices of the polygon, lattice points of the lattice, and particles. So if you don't know what that means, just right click and check what that icon represents, or what type of component that icon represents. Okay, on keyboard press F8 to switch between component mode to object mode. Function key 8, F8. Okay, so coming to the CV curve tool. CV curve tool is a tool which gives me a NURBS curve, but you are placing the control vertex while you are creating it, and that is CV curve tool. That means, okay, I'll just go to a orthographic top view, click. When I've clicked, I've placed a vertex, a control vertex point. Now I've clicked it, another control vertex, clicked, another control vertex. So far I've not created a curve. The brown color thing is a hull. By any chance, if you hit enter, there is no curve right now in the scene. So you have to wait until you get the curve. When do you get the curve is, if you are in the 3 cubic or 3-degree curve as a setting, when you click 1 point, 2, 3, after 3, on the 4th point you get the curve. Okay, so what is that numbers here? And if you see carefully, 1 degree is definitely a straight line curve. Okay, it's made with straight lines. And if you go to the 2-degree curve, okay, you get a smooth curve. Now what happens if I just keep increasing the degree of the curve? Okay, let's go and try with different degree of the curve. This is 3-degree curve. Then I'm choosing the 5 degree. I'm not choosing Bezier. We have separate tool for Bezier. Then I'm choosing 7 degree. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now if you see, the degree is lesser, the more precise curve I got, and degree is more, then you got more straight curve. It controls the resolution of the points with less or sensitive changes. In 7 degree you got more points, but the difference in the position of the points is not affecting the curve. It is quite stable, whereas a small here and there giving me a shape of the curve. So Maya generally recommends a 3-degree curve versus 1-degree curve, because 1-degree curve gives me a straight line and 3 degree gives me a spline. So these are the two different types of curves you can generally use for your modeling purposes. I don't say that you don't use the other one, but it's your choice, as I said. Knot spacing is all about parameterization of the curve. So when you are generally creating a curve, there is no much difference in the shape point, but when we see the parameterization of this curve, the spacing of the u value is quite uniform in this, whereas it is based on the length of the curve. If you are modeling with the curve, the textures are based on the spacing here. So if you are using this for modeling, it is recommended to just go with the uniform. And there is multiple end knots. Let's say if I am creating the curve, you see the end points, the curve is starting from this point to that point, but if you are choosing multiple end knots, then you see the curve is not starting from here, it's starting from there. Generally when you're modeling multi-patch sort of thing, and you're expecting the tangency blending between two different curves, this multiple endpoints off option is recommended. If not, the default setting is perfectly okay. So this is a CV curve tool for you. Let's see the EP curve tool. So if I go to the create menu, we have the EP curve tool. In this tool you have the in the tool settings you have the degree of the curve and the knot spacing. There's no much to discuss about that except the way we create the curve here. CV curve tool is if you are using CV curve tool or you're using EP curve tool, the final result is a curve, a NURBS curve. But in EP, while creating, you're placing the edit points. This is an edit point here, and then you start creating the shape there. This is a NURBS curve, no different from the CV curves curve. I would like to talk about if I'm just clicking at a point here, and I'm just keeping on moving, the last point can be edited, or you can move it. After you have placed it, you just press D on the keyboard and then move that particular point. Let's say you have gone wrong, then you have to go few steps backward. Then you can use this backspace on the keyboard and go few steps back and then start creating again. And if you are expecting a straight line, then hold shift, then you get the straight lines there. And you can create beveled corners also. Beveled corners are basically depend upon the 3 points on the corner. The distance between these 2 points define the radius of the beveled corners. Once you have created a curve, let's say you have to continue it creating again, then you can use this curves tool and then you have add points tool, and then you can start continuing your curve from there. Okay, so this is about how you create curves inside Maya. Let's create Bezier Curve Tool, or use Bezier Curve Tool. I'm opening the options. I don't much really care about the options here, because things what we are doing while creating, we can in much better way handle them after creating it. So just keep it to default and then start placing the points. So just normal click will give me a very simple straight line, but if I click and drag it, it gives me the handle where you can give that Bezier or tangent handle type thing. So as I said, if I have to one thing which we can take from here is we can close this curve just by holding Control Shift and clicking on the first point, and the first point will be now a single point there. It's a closed curve now. Now if I right click, we have components called control vertex, we have hull, okay, we have curve point. So we know curve point and hull. We will see the control vertex. There are basically, one is your curve point with handle, another one without handle. If you basically shift right click it, okay, then you have the switch between the handle types. First say I choose the Bezier, then it becomes a Bezier handle. For this I pick at a corner, it becomes a corner. So I can switch anywhere between them. We have Bezier corner, where it is giving a corner, but it's giving me the Bezier handle. Again, if you see, the both handles are freely moving. The inside and the outside handles are independently moving, but here when I move one handle, the opposite is also staying parallel to that. So now we have two types, and that can be changed by either break tangent, where the two handles are independent, or I can smooth tangent, where the two tangent handles are locked with each other. And we have even tangent, where the size of this side handle and that side handle will be equal. I move one of the handle inside, the opposite one comes inside too. But if I just change it to uneven, then move one side handle, the other side will not get affected with that. So that is what this options is. And if I just hold the, instead of the vertex, if I hold the handle and I hold shift right click, we have smooth anchor, we have break anchor, we have even anchor, we have uneven anchor. So you have both of them there. Okay, so Bezier tool is very similar to the other curve in Maya, but mostly Maya's curve is NURBS curve. It has got a lot of tools here to control them, and yeah, it is a new addition to Maya. It was not there in older versions. Later they have added into Maya. So let's see the pencil curve tool here. So I'm opening the curve tools, and we have the pencil curve tool. We have the degree of the curve, so we'll keep it to the default, and then we got the cursor. Just click and drag it. So it is like a freehand curve tool, useful if you are making any freehand drawings, signatures in 3D. You can basically use this tool. Let's see the 3-point circular arc. In this again we have the degree of the curve and number of sections, so I keep it to the default and then just create. 3-point circular arc gives you an arc, and you have to create the arc by clicking 3 times in the viewport. 1, 2, 3. Then you got the arc here, which is a part of a circle. If you select the channel box, you have the options, or you can go to the attribute editor. You have the options there. So if you see, there is a point 1, it's XYZ position, point 2 XYZ position, point 3 XYZ position, degree of the curve, and sections of the curve. Degree of the curve, sections, point 1 XYZ, point 2 XYZ, and so on. If you select any of the value here and modify, then you see the curve gets affected. Instead of editing it from the channel box, you can interactively edit that in the viewport also. For that, select the curve and then open the channel box and click the 3-point circular arc, expand this, and then press T on the keyboard. T is a shortcut for show manipulator tool, which you don't have here, but you can just access by pressing T on the keyboard. Once you have pressed that, you have the point, which is the first point, which you can move, and you see the values keep changing there. And this is point number 2, which you can change, and we have point number 3. Click and change the values there. And you can also change the degree of the curve to linear, and also you can reduce the spans or increase the spans accordingly. Okay, so this is 3-point circular arc. Let's see 2-point circular arc. We have degree and the sections in the options, and I'll go to the orthographic top view and then click 2 times here, 1 and 2. So these 2 points are placed to create a circle, arc. But if you see, the arc is on the lower side. Maybe you were expecting on the top side, but it came on the bottom. In that case, you can click this circle and toggle on which side you want the circle to be. Not only that, you have the option called radius, which you can increase here and make it bigger or a smaller circle. You can hit enter and also control that from the channel box later. Select the circle, click expand, and then we have degree, we have sections, we have the point 1 and point 2 XYZ position. Apart from that, we have this direction which controls the normal of the circle. So in which direction it should see, you can control them. Okay, and we have the radius, which you can control, and we have the toggle arc. You can enter 0 or 1 accordingly, or you can press T on the keyboard and then toggle radius, move. So you can do all of them here. As I was doing this in perspective, it was affecting the direction of the curve also. Okay, so this is a 2-point circular arc. Most of the options what you have seen in the channel box are animatable, so you can create beautiful motion graphics out of these curves too.